As much as The Muppets Wizard of Oz frustrated and disappointed me, it had the slightest few redeemable things about it. The Muppets still did their thing, and I generally liked the people that they got in the supporting roles, even if it wasn't a great showcase for their talents. After the Wizard is the absence of good. Next to nothing happens in this film. It's not well made, it's not well acted, the costumes are bad, the cinematography is as flat and dull as the Kansas plains, there's barely a story, and it's boring. It was clearly made without a lot of money, which wouldn't necessarily preclude it from being good. We saw that with Oz, a Rock and Roll Road movie, but the story is so thin, it can barely be called a story that you notice the technical shortcomings even more. The setup for the story is not a bad one. A girl in an orphanage, yeah, an orphanage in 2011, named Elizabeth Haskins claims to be Dorothy Gale from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which exists as a work of fiction in the movie's universe. What's more, the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman make their way to our world via a balloon. In the only amusing part of the movie, they land in New Jersey and have to make their way across the US via train to Kansas City. From there we get a lot of talk about geography and trains. I don't know, there are a lot of weird moments like that in this film. There's about 15 minutes of story stretched out to feature film length. It's devoid of humor, conflict, deeper meaning, or charm like we've seen before. It doesn't help that professional cosplayers look more like fantastical creatures than the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman in this film. In fact, the Cowardly Lion is barely in this film, largely because he looks the least convincing of all. Seriously, this is clearly people in makeup. I assume the idea is that Elizabeth Haskins clings to the Wonderful Wizard of Oz so closely because she feels alone in the world, but to the point of actually believing that she's Dorothy Gale from the book? Granted, this seems like the setup for a potentially psychologically rich character study, almost like an Oz version of Equus, but with slightly less bestiality. Only slightly, though. The film blurs the line of reality in a way that's not satisfying, since we see Elizabeth encounter the Scarecrow and the Tin Man before they properly show up at her orphanage. So are those versions of the characters meant to be imaginary, or was their journey to the orphanage a flashback? Are those characters entirely imaginary? If so, what's the point of seeing their cross-country journey? The script isn't anywhere near nuanced enough, and the editing isn't such that it's easy to tell either way. There's really not much more I can say about After the Wizard. It's not a good movie, but it's not frustratingly bad like The Muppets Wizard of Oz, nor is it so bad it's good like The Wonderful Land of Oz. It's a filmmaking void. And again, I mean no ill will to the cast and crew. The fact that they even made a film at all is a huge achievement. I know a lot of people that have talked about making a movie and have not done it, not even a short. And believe me, I have made short films, I know how hard they are to make, so I'm not trying to take away anything from anyone involved in this film. I know my early short films weren't the best, and I really hope they use this film as a stepping stone for better work yet to come, but the film itself? It's just bad.